Imagine getting fined for enjoying your own pool. Not a shared one. Not a community amenity. Your private pool, in your fenced backyard, paid for with your own money, built on your land. Sounds insane, right? Well, that was my reality the morning I found a folded citation stuck between my door handle and screen door. Courtesy of Karen, yes. The full-blown HOA archetype, clipboard, and all. But here's what makes it worse. The fine claimed I was creating an exclusive environment in a visually communal zone, whatever that means. And that my pool, because it could be seen from the walking path behind my house, needed to be shared with the neighborhood to maintain aesthetic harmony. Now, I know what you're thinking. That can't be legal. You're right. But HOA Karen wasn't operating on legality. She was operating on entitlement and a long-standing reputation of bullying other neighbors into submission. But not this time. Because what Karen didn't know was that I had documentation, video evidence, and something else she underestimated: patience. I wasn't just going to push back. I was going to seal the gate, lock it down, and show her that control doesn't beat quiet strategy. And when it was all over, Karen wouldn't just be out of my pool. She'd be out of power, and out of the HOA. Back when I moved into the neighborhood, Maple Trail Estates seemed like the picture of peace. Fresh lawns, trimmed hedges, kids biking to school. I had just finished a grueling stretch scaling my small startup, and finally invested in something that symbolized my version of success: a modest modern home with a decent yard, and a beautiful in-ground pool. Everything was quiet the first few weeks. I worked from home, swam laps in the morning, hosted a few friends on weekends. Nothing rowdy, nothing disruptive. But then came the looks. I noticed her first during a Saturday morning swim. She stood on the edge of the walking path that lined the back of my fence, watching from behind her oversized sunglasses like a hawk. Arms crossed, lip curled slightly. She didn't wave, didn't smile, just observed. Later that week, I got my first HOA letter. It wasn't a formal violation yet, just a concern. It claimed my pool was visually excessive and could be seen from the path, which apparently disrupted the neighborhood's uniform landscape. I laughed. I thought it was a joke. The second note came the following week. It included a $75 fine and was signed by the HOA secretary, Pamela Thompson, who I later learned was also known as Karen around the block. Apparently, she'd earned her nickname by threatening to fine another neighbor for painting their mailbox too glossy. I filed a formal response, attaching my deed, property line survey, and zoning permit for the pool. But Karen wasn't after rules. She was after control. The next day I saw her again on the walking path, this time with a clipboard, gesturing to a few other board members. That's when I knew. She had bigger plans, and I had just become her next target. 2 days after submitting my response, I found a bright orange flyer pinned to my mailbox. Not a notice, a flyer. It read, "Equal access for all, community pool inclusion matters. Attend the HOA vote Friday." She was organizing a vote, not to remove the fine, to declare my private pool a community-adjacent feature subject to shared hours. I nearly choked on my coffee. I immediately called the HOA office. The receptionist sounded exhausted. "Yes, Mr. Carter. We know about the flyer. No, she can't actually enforce that. No, it's not binding. But she is the chairwoman of the amenities committee." Karen had stacked the HOA board with her friends. 3 of the 5 members were either personal friends or part of her weekly garden club. The other 2? Too passive to object. I had walked into a suburban Game of Thrones. That Friday, I attended the meeting. It was held in the community center rec room. Folding chairs, stale coffee, and a projector. Karen stood front and center, arms flailing like she was delivering a TED Talk. She claimed my pool set a dangerous precedent for community division, that allowing it to remain private and exclusive would erode the cooperative fabric of Maple Trail. I raised my hand, stood up, and calmly read my prepared statement. I explained the legality of my pool, showed documentation, and distributed printed copies of the city permits. But Karen doubled down. She held up a photo of my pool, zoomed in from the walking path, and said, "This is practically advertising exclusivity." It wasn't a vote about rules. It was about perception, control, ego. They tabled the motion for further review. But it didn't stop there. The next week I noticed a child attempting to climb my gate. A parent stood nearby, waving cheerfully. I approached, confused. Karen said this was the new community pool schedule, the woman said. Figured we'd beat the crowd. The next morning, I installed a lock, then a chain, then a coded keypad. Karen responded by sending another fine. This one for obstructive fencing incompatible with HOA aesthetic expectations. I installed motion sensing cameras, posted signs, private property, not community access. That's when she really lost it. She went door to door collecting signatures, claimed I was creating a classist division in the neighborhood, that my pool was symbolic of everything wrong with new money invading family spaces. But here's what she didn't know. I had been documenting everything. Video of the attempted trespasses, copies of every letter, and most importantly, recorded audio of her saying during the HOA meeting, "We know he paid for it, but it looks like a community pool, so it should be one." I compiled everything, put it on a flash drive, and mailed copies to the HOA Legal Oversight Committee, City Zoning Office, and my lawyer. I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going to build a case so airtight it would snap Karen's clipboard in half. I knew Karen wouldn't back down until she was either embarrassed or removed, or both. So I shifted strategies. First, I hosted a neighborhood gathering. Not in the backyard, out front. I served lemonade, grilled sliders, and kept the pool locked the whole time. I invited everyone, even Karen. She declined, obviously, but that wasn't the point. The point was to show that I wasn't exclusive, just private. Next, I began campaigning quietly for the upcoming HOA board election. I filed my candidacy, printed flyers, and went door to door sharing my story. Turns out, I wasn't alone. Karen had fined people for the shade of their porch lights, the size of their pumpkins at Halloween, and even for holiday lights that blinked. Support snowballed. The more people heard about what she tried to do to my pool, the more they realized she had crossed a line. I also updated my security system, this time with live feed capability and cloud storage. One night, Karen herself walked up to my back gate and tried the lock. On camera. The footage was clear, time-stamped, and perfectly legal thanks to the signs I had posted. I submitted it as part of a formal harassment complaint. Within a week, the board called an emergency session. Karen wasn't removed yet, but her powers were suspended pending review, and that's when I made my final move. I drained the pool, not permanently, just long enough to repaint the deck with bold letters that read, "Private, HOA access denied." The video of Karen's reaction the next morning? Let's just say it made the rounds in the neighborhood group chat real fast. The HOA review committee launched an internal audit after receiving my compiled evidence. I wasn't the only one who had filed a complaint. Turns out, 4 other households had similar stories of aggressive fines and personal targeting by Karen. The legal team cited her misuse of authority, intimidation tactics, and personal bias. She had violated at least 3 HOA bylaws. She was stripped of her position by a 5-0 vote. Neighbors started coming by, thanking me. Turns out, she had ruled by fear for years. No one wanted to be the target. But the moment someone fought back with facts, proof, and calm resolve, the whole house of cards collapsed. As for the pool, I reopened it. For myself, my friends, and family, as it was always meant to be. And now, no one mistook it for anything but mine. Karen put her house on the market 2 weeks later. Rumor is, she moved into a gated community. I hope their HOA likes clipboards. The pool is quiet now. Peaceful. No more knocks, no more fake fines. Just the sound of water, the occasional splash, and the laughter of people I actually invite. Looking back, this wasn't just about property lines or fines. It was about standing up to someone who thought she could redefine ownership by force of personality. Karen didn't just try to take my pool. She tried to hijack boundaries, redefine control, and bully a neighborhood into her version of order. But entitlement only works until someone documents it, challenges it, locks the gate. So, if you're dealing with a Karen of your own, remember, you don't have to shout, you don't have to rage. You just have to be smarter, quieter, and more prepared. Because people like her don't fear conflict. They fear consequence. Comment, pool justice if you made it to the end. And let me know. Would you have just paid the fine? Or would you have locked the gate like I did? See you in the next one.